this. What do you think caused the shift to where we have this red pill community against the pink pill community, and we have this toxic masculinity against feminism, all this stuff? What caused the shift?
I think that one explanation I heard from a guy, one of the things he said was men have had to face the fact that they've had to face their egos, where you can come into the relationship with, your success and your things, but now women are matching it.
That's the problem.
And when women are matching it, we don't need the stuff that you were conditioned since childhood to present to us. We already have it, and now you seem less valuable. So it's almost like, see me, I am here. And then if a woman takes on that attitude that now the stakes are higher. Okay, I have this, so you take it up a notch. And men are saying, do you know what it's like out there?
Love is a treasure chest, but once opened, our hearts become vulnerable.
I went back to Vegas. It was this guy. He appeared as a friend. Sure enough, it led to infidelity.
Alignment can't be ignored.
We talked about certain topics as far as having kids. She didn't want to have kids. And that was one of the red flags.
And I know you desire marriage. So I think it's best you move on with your life.
Hold on, Lisa, what you do?
I told him, okay.
She didn't ask me why.
I knew several other women's bodies better than I knew my own. I watched their videos of them having sex, so I would try to imitate that.
No discussion is off limits. Dear Future Wifey podcast brings healing.
You inspire us to try God a little bit more.
But through this platform, I have realized that it's possible. It's possible to love again.
The conversations have really helped me to change my perspective on relationships.
Season 7 is all about tough topics. I'm Lateris R. Whitfield, and welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Lateris R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, come on, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. Listen, we're still in season 7, Tough Topics, and we have an amazing guest today. I know this is a familiar face for a lot of y'all, and while she was in town at the Woman Evolve conference, I said, I gotta get her because we've been talking about bringing on the podcast for over a year. So without further ado, welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast, my homie, Love McPherson. How you doing, Queen?
Oh, I am doing well, and it's so good to be here. I am so excited.
Love, how long have we been talking about having you come on here?
It's been over a year, I know for sure.
About a year. You've been traveling a lot, and one time you came to Texas. You were in Houston. We were trying to see if you can fly into Dallas real quick and fly out. Yeah, and then you and I did Irisha Hiller's event.
Yes, so we sat at the dinner table together, didn't we?
Yeah. So it's been a long time coming.
Yes.
So Love, I asked you what would be a tough topic to talk about. What did you say?
I said, I think the toughest topic for me as a relationship expert and seeing the pain that happens would be the undercurrent gender wars that are happening.
What's going on? What's going on in these streets?
Nobody's saying it as overtly as it is happening more covertly. And that is that, there is a lack of compassion and empathy within the genders. Everybody is kind of fighting for their rights. We're fighting for our rights as women against the men, and the men are fighting for their rights, and they're standing up as men against the women. And you can just see that everybody is kind of at a stalemate and fighting, and it absolutely extracts every morsel, every drip of love out of the possibility of really having healthy relationships.
What do you think happened? Because it hasn't always been like this. What do you think caused the shift to where we have this red pill community against the pink pill community, and we have this toxic masculinity against feminism, all this stuff? What caused the shift? First of all, let me ask you, has it been like that early on in life, or did you ever see this type of culture when you were growing up?
I think that one explanation I heard from a guy, and he was saying that, which it really touched me. I don't even think he was talking about this particular, but One of the things he said was men have had to face the fact that they've had to face their egos, where you can come into the relationship with, your success and your things, but now women are matching it.
That's the problem.
And when women are matching it, we don't need the stuff that you were conditioned since childhood to present to us. We already have it, and now you seem less valuable. So it's almost like, see me, I am here. And then if a woman takes on that attitude that now the stakes are higher. Okay, I have this, so you take it up a notch. And men are saying, do you know what it's like out there to try to get to the six figures? Now you want us to have multiple, and you want us to present this and then be emotional and be that power guy who's successful, but still be at home. You can't be working all in. You got to put some boundaries. So it's the goalpost has moved, and then the men are not seeing the value. I think this is what women are feeling, that men are not necessarily feeling the value of what we bring to the table just by nothing we do. I mean, not in nothing we do, but it's because of who we are.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Every single person, event, production that has happened in the world is because it came through the womb of a woman. Every man who built, every scientist who discovered came from our wombs. And I think that our wombs have been depreciated as much as a man's leadership and masculinity. I think both of us are not valuing the things that really matter.
What caused the shift, though? What happened to where, and you hit the nail on the head when you said that women, and studies show that women are now out-earning, especially African-American women, are out-earning their African-American male counterparts. And you hit the nail on the head when you say now men are saying we've been conditioned at early ages saying that we are supposed to be providers. And now a woman is like, I can do battle by myself. I got this on my own. I was reading a post today where a woman said that somebody said, does it matter what job a man has? And she said he has to at least have a job that is professional, career-driven job that is at least making as much as I'm making or more. Because they were responding to Tyler Perry, who was on Crystal Renee's podcast, that said that if you can find you find a man that's making, he may be making below what you're making, but if he is a good man, he comes home at night, he's honoring you, respecting you, give that brother a chance, and y'all two put your $100,000 with his $50,000, and y'all got $150 together, and stop looking so divided. What is your thought process about that? About a woman, as they say, dating down, as they say, to a man that's making less income?
This is what I would say about that. I am in a whole different generation,
right,
than a lot of the women that are desiring that. As I'm going to speak from a woman who is been married to the same man for 40 years.
40 years, congratulations.
And still in love and in like, because you'll hear me say all the time, it's easy to love because that's my commitment. I have integrity, but to like them is a process, okay?
Yeah.
Now, as a person who is 40 years married, I have the privilege of perspective. And I'm going to tell you something. First of all, what I know about myself is whatever you bring to the table, I'm going to multiply it anyway, because the birthing in me, the anointing of birth in me is going to reproduce. Okay? But what I'm not going to reproduce for you is your serial cheating, your consistent, my love don't cover all that. Okay? So your inability in this world, the way the systems are working against you as a black man, I have compassion for that. I am a father, daughter with 5 brothers. I have compassion. I understand the nuances of a man and the things that he goes through. Yeah. So I have compassion. What I don't think people realize is that when you get to be my age, whether there was a six-pack there ever or not, is so irrelevant.
It is.
It is so irrelevant when we both buried all four of our parents. It was so irrelevant when I birthed my daughters and went and literally lost consciousness and had to have my husband there nursing me. It was so irrelevant when I chose to lay on a hospital bed with a 2-inch mattress all night when he had to have surgery. It was so irrelevant as we have raised our children and been there through the ups, downs of society and things like that. When you talking about a partner for life, when we're talking about marriage partners, we are talking about people who I am not even my 20-some-year-old self. He didn't sign up for me. I didn't sign up for him. We continuously accept each other every single day. And it's so important that you realize that I don't care what he looks like, what he's making today or tomorrow, it can change. Within 1 month of my husband and I getting married, he walked into that door and said, I just got laid off.
Wow.
Of nothing against him. In fact, his old job liked him so much until they actually found his new job for him. They called him and said, I have a friend, and he was working within the next week. However, you can make whatever you want and not have whatever you want. And your health, whatever the case may be, you have got to see that what's important is the character of a man.
There it is.
And what's important is the character of a woman. And until we go and are able to appreciate that, because love starts with passion, but it finishes, and the longest portion of love and marriage is not passionate love, compassionate love. So if your love can't cover compassion, then you don't even qualify for the institution of marriage.
Love, I think you stepped on a lot of toes just then. Do you realize that? You just stepped on a whole bunch of toes. You said it begins with passion, but it ends with compassion.
But the passion that it begins with, let me tell you something, that's tricky, because the passion comes from a chemical release. Oxytocin, dopamine, all of this, when you talking about the drugs that help you bond with somebody and help you feel good about somebody, and then they wear off, baby, you on drugs, okay? And you chasing your first high. So you don't get consumed and excited about that, because when it wears off, you'll say, and this is what happens, this is what comes in my chair. You've changed. You used to do this. You used to do that. No, you was on drugs. Okay, you was on drugs.
Is that what you tell them, love?
Yes, you were on drugs. And the drugs have worn off. And now your eyes are open. And so that was a nice little boost to attract people so we can continue to procreate on the earth.
Yeah.
However, after that, your character has to lead the relationship.
There it is.
Your character and your empathy. Marriage, we think it's all about what I get. No, when you go into marriage, when you go into a relationship of that level, it is about what you can give, and not from your standpoint, but from my standpoint.
Yep.
Can I give you a healthy self who has dealt with her inner trauma? Can I give you a person who has mastered the ability to forgive? If you ain't even forgiving your own parents, I'm not saying you haven't set boundaries, but if you haven't forgiven them, you have no skills for the main character trait that you will need in a marriage on a regular basis. If you don't even have any empathy or compassion or the ability to communicate or conflict resolution skills, you don't have the basic skills to be in a something that you are seeking and upset that somebody is not giving you.
You hit the nail on the head with this one. I want to unpack this. You said forgiveness versus setting boundaries. Unpack that. Please explain that.
Absolutely. A lot of times people think that unconditional love equals unconditional relationship. Oh, no. Even God don't give you unconditional relationship. All the way in the Old Testament, he's like, okay, y'all can come. One person can come into the Holy of Holies, but you're going to come correct, okay? The rest of y'all going to sit on the outer court, okay?
And if you come in bearing sin, you're going to die.
Exactly. And we're going to drag you out on the rope.
Yeah.
And so you can't just come into and have relationship with me. And this is why. You say, well, why? Was God not loving? No, it had nothing to do with his love. It had to do with his purpose. And when we have a purpose on the earth, we know that we can't allow everybody into our intimate spaces because we understand what it does to us and the distraction that it creates and the mental health damages that it creates. It's a slow death, a slow toxicity that disrupts the flow of what you're producing.
So when you talk about, we're going to take a few steps. We done jumped into marriage. Let's take a few steps on getting it right in the dating process. Matter of fact, you have a book about this.
Yes.
What's the name of your book?
The 5 Stages of Dating.
Okay, yeah, we got to talk about this. So the 5 stages of dating. So we talk about the oxytocin and dopamine and all that type of stuff that makes us bond to an individual, but we got to understand how to do relationships right. And so the podcast, Dear Future Wifey podcast, is supported by single people and married people. But the single people are always in my DMs saying, how do we date? We got these different terms. We got situationships. We got dating. We got talking to, all these different stages. Was it as complicated as that when you met your husband?
I don't think we made it as complicated. It was our ratio of possibilities were so much smaller. Okay, it was the church choir, the musicians, the people at your school, down the street and up the street. And if you got to college, it was like, whoa, like the world is absolutely open.
And so y'all dated more around y'all geographical area.
Absolutely.
Now with social media, the boundaries are limitless. So when
the options, and see that it's like I say it's like the Cheesecake Factory menu. You'd be like, I don't know what I want on here. It's like 10 pages of stuff.
So we look at this. What are the 5 stages of dating?
The first one is attraction. Now, I talked about the attraction that happens with the dopamine and the chemical releases and things like that, but that's not the only way you attract. One of the ways that you attract, I named like 7 ways of attracting in the book, but one of them is actually when your first date is you meet somebody when you're having high stimulated activities, such as being in the gym, because it gives you the same chemical releases as what I just talked about, you will feel more attractive. Also, say you were sitting there at a dinner with somebody and you're out on a date and you get this phone call and you're like, I really have to answer it because I've been waiting on this answer from this company. And they give you the book deal or whatever they're giving you, and you see this financial, like, oh my God, you get the congratulations. Well, guess what? You will actually associate that person with that great time, and they will be engrafted in there, and you might just kind of believe that you had a better time with them than you were. And the last one, I'm not going to go through all 7, they have to buy the book, but the closing time effect. The surveys have been done like you at a bar or something, right? And they would see who's the possibility. Do you see anybody? They rated them, they might rate as a 4. By the closing time effect, they were raising, and not even the alcohol. Don't blame it on alcohol.
I was about to say.
But they were up to 7s and 8s, because when your possibilities shrink, which is what you're talking about, when your possibilities shrink, then people look better to you. You're like, is this all there is? Okay, I'll take that. Okay, but it's all there. It's almost like at when you're little and they tell you to choose your team. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take her.
Yeah, the science personal team. So what is the second stage?
The second stage, in stage 1, is that attraction stage. That's that talking on the phone and going all the way to the first date. At the first date, you could either just decide, that was crazy, I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
Or you'll say, okay, I think there was something, I want to explore it. Stage 2 is dating without a commitment, okay? So no commitment. And really, it's not even commitment. It's more dating non-exclusively.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not exclusively dating you, but I might date you for 2 or 3 months. But we're not exclusive.
Right.
That's a tricky stage because some people will say, you've taken me out like 5 times. And then I saw you on social media with her, or I saw you with him. Are you cheating? He's not cheating. She's not cheating. Okay. You are not in an exclusive relationship. Also, make sure in stage 1, before you even go on that date, that everybody knows how far they want to go up the ladder. Because if I only want to go to stage 2 and stop, I have that right.
Yep.
Everybody don't have to go to stage 5, which is marriage. But tell me that at stage 1 before I start becoming invested. The other thing is, if I'm going to get stuck in stage 2, or you stuck in stage 2 for 6 months, but you done already shifted me and set me on a bench in stage 3, that ain't gonna work either, okay? I'm not gonna be in an exclusive relationship and you in a non-exclusive relationship. That's not what we gonna do today. But you gotta know that, and it has to be said. And don't allow somebody to bench you and you sitting there thirsty waiting for them to come and join you in stage 3, which is exclusive dating. You are not winning them over to that stage, okay? Don't think you can sex them enough.
Yep.
Don't think you can love them enough, people please them enough to join you in stage 3. They should, I don't care if it's male or woman or male or female, they should want and desire you. And they look and say this, and this is an important statement. The important statement is this: there may be some other people that's out there that's prettier than you or better looking than you or make more money than you, but you know what? You're the best for me right now.
Facts.
And I have decided to close the shop and exclusively date you. Now, during stage 2, I'm watching though, because I'm seeing, and we both have choices.
Yep.
I want to see if you are even capable of being consistent. If that's the friendship stage,
Yes.
the friendship is going to take you in that marriage. It is going to control through the hard times and the good times. You better create the friendship. What is friendship? Loyalty. The ability to be open and transparent, the ability to be there and when I need you, and things like that, the compassion, all of those character traits. Then once we get to stage 3, which is exclusive dating, then I'm looking at, and a lot of these things, by the time I'm looking at stage 3, I'm still been looking at them all along. It's not like I'm blind to it, but I'm really looking to see if I would actually, you qualify and have the skills to be in an exclusive relationship.
There it is.
If you have no emotional discipline, no sexual discipline, or any of that kind of stuff, then it's going to show up.
Yep.
If you are not going to pay attention to me, and we are trying to plan for stage 4, which is engagement, then that's a problem. And so stage 3 is a very serious time. But then stage 4, when it comes time for engagement, that's a very important period too, because all along you want to master skills like communication skills and relationship skills and things like that. But when we get to stage 4, you want to make sure that you tailor your relationship skills to your particular mate. And that's what I do in my marriage counseling. We're going to look at your traumas. We're going to look at their traumas. We're going to look at your background, because you've picked up skills from your caregivers.
Yeah.
You have picked up different things. Even your relationships in the past have groomed you to be a certain way, have guarded you to be a certain way. We're going to look at that. So while you're working through your childhood traumas, I don't want your mate to come and be the trigger of them. So if say it's a financial thing.
Yeah.
And if you're in a financial situation where there was extreme poverty and you were like, I am never going to be like that. So you're a saver. Your money language is security, and you're saving. But your mate likes to spend because her money language is love and affection. So she's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. You be like, no, nobody ain't gonna get no car. We're gonna put that in the bank. You understand? And so you could trigger, and a person is wondering why they're fighting, but they're really fighting over the fact that you are placing me in a position where I will experience past pain.
How easy is it to uncover that? as a therapist? Or is that something you see right away?
It is. And I think for me, that's probably my sweet spot is being able to detect it, because there are certain patterns that just happen. And if I ask the right questions, and I've worked with enough people, I definitely uncover it. And people usually leave my sessions like, how did you know that? But it shows up.
So where's the balance? Do you try to tell one person do you try to tell them to find a happy medium, to tell the guy that may be penny pitching to say, hey, listen, she needs this from you. You don't have to have all this money saved up and you scared to spend any of it, and tell her, hey, you need to dial back because you're spending too frivolously.
What I tell them is this. I actually design what I feel is a good money management way of handling things. You don't have to do it, but it's a good way, because everybody's money language should be able to be expressed. If you if you take away my ability to feel secure, or you take away my ability to use my money to show love and affection, I am going to be stifled and I'm going to resent you.
Yep.
So this is what I do. There is a savings fund that we contribute to. We know the rules of that. There is a household expense account. And then there's 4 accounts. There is my account and your account.
Yeah.
After we put the percentage that we're supposed to put, both of us put in those different accounts, our accounts, I get to spend. But don't be looking over at your husband's account, who's security.
He's saving up all that money?
Yeah, once you didn't overspend and picked up the checks, don't come looking at his account. You just did what you did, okay? And so you use your language and let him continue to maintain his. And so everybody is able to kind of manage that like that.
How do you manage it from like percentage-wise if he's making 5 times more than you make?
I always say not equal giving, but equal sacrifice. So if you are putting 20% of your income and I'm putting 20% of my income, we're both going to feel it the same.
That's true. That is the best way to look at that, because a lot of times you get people that talk about, well, no, he makes more. He needs to pay all of the bills and I get to keep my money. You know what I'm saying? And then he looking like, It just, and that's what you hear the gender wars about.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing about that. If there are some people who are raised like that, and they're going to do that anyway.
Right.
And there are certain cultures that is just the norm, and that is what is expected. However, that has to be decided in stage 1, okay?
Sure.
Talk about the money thing. What do you feel about that? And you'll start seeing that show up in the checks at the dating. So you don't even have to ask if he won't even pick up your check. You probably ain't gonna pay for your whole household living.
I see these videos online where men are out and women, they'll take them to a fancy restaurant and they'll order lobster and steak and all this stuff. And then the dude is like, all right, you gonna give me some? And she looking like, no, you think I'm just gonna have sex with you because you paid for a meal? And he's out and recording her because she done took a plane and he done flew her out. She done got flued out. He done bought all this stuff. And I always wonder, what would you say to a woman, because somebody's not teaching somebody something. Mm-hmm. So my question to you, how do you think women should handle that level of dating where a guy slides in your DM on social media, say, hey, listen, I want to fly you to my city. He buys you a flight, puts you in a hotel room, takes you to go get something to eat. How do you think that they should handle that?
I feel like this. The person who is doing the flying needs to realize there is no guarantees. Unless you have contracted a hooker, there should be no guarantees. I am serious.
I know it.
And then the woman who is going out with the date, there are no guarantees that you will not be at a Starbucks I'll stand here. This is the thing. We cannot have this sense of entitlement.
There it is.
And we can't have male privilege in the sex realm. We can't have female privilege.
Yep.
You know, in the whole show me. No, we have there. You don't have the skills to move towards the compassionate love, because with my husband, I've always had to be compassionate about his income. I have to be compassionate about making sure I don't hurt him.
Yeah.
And if he's out there working, there was a time when when I had my first child. Well, we're both out in corporate America. We both graduated from college the same day. But when we're out there in corporate America, and I decide, and we both decide together, I want to stay home for a year with my daughter. But I walk away from a corporate job, and he takes on 2. I have to be compassionate about certain things for him at that point. So I've got to step in and do some things. If there are some things that's going on, it at all times in marriage, it will just be imbalanced in a way where it's like, okay, I'm gonna put more load on me right now, and then he'll say, I'm gonna put more load. That's an example of him taking on more load. I'm gonna work 2 jobs so you can stay home. He could have just said, no, we're gonna put him in daycare.
Yeah.
You understand? But he realized we were trying to, we were working on something. But here's the thing.
That's good.
You have to have the end in mind from the beginning.
That's what's missing.
That is.
What's missing is delayed gratification. What's missing so much is that people get married and it's a selfish mentality, even when they're saying their vows. I saw a vow one day, and this lady stopped the preacher. He said, honor and obey. She said, I ain't finna say obey. I ain't finna obey him. I said, what is her thought process around that? Like, wow. And so that means that she evolved to this place of consciousness where she says, I don't have to obey my husband. Well, of course, some of those vows are still antiquated, but the fact that she, on her wedding day, made it a point to say, I'm not obeying you, sets a bad precedence. It's like, it's because at the end of the day, we should be, quote unquote, obeying each other if you really look at it. But at the end of the day, she was like, I'm not obeying you. And it's saying that I'm going to operate in this lack of submission to my husband. And I'm saying it in front of everybody. Like, no, I'm not obeying you. What do you think about that?
This is what I feel. When that happens at the altar, that's a red flag, waving huge, and not just about the woman, but about the entire communication of that couple.
Yep.
You all have not discussed stuff. Because first of all, let's look at the marriage vows. The marriage vows, people think that the Bible wrote them, right?
No.
Bible didn't write it.
No.
The man made the marriage vows. So if by the time you get to that altar, you should be in an agreement as one on what your marriage looks like. You will not have your grandparents' marriage anymore.
Right.
You have to specifically tailor design what your marriage looks like. My daughter and son-in-law, they are both traveling. They live in 2 states. They work and they travel and they meet up, and that's their specially designed relationship that didn't exist all the time in my generation.
Right.
So by the time you get there, understand what you need to do, what you agree to do. My husband was like this. He had, and my father was too. My grandmother and he would see, both of them would see ladies catering to men, standing over, cooking and doing this stuff. They did not like it. Neither my father
didn't like that?
Did not like it. Because this is the thing. My father didn't like it because his father was abusive.
Oh, okay.
And so he married a much younger. He married my grandmother when she was only 14. Only had met her one time and shipped her out there, and she was basically the Cinderella abused girl in his parents' household with him more than she was his wife. And so my father saw her cater night and day, and my grandmother did this for everybody, and she would just cater for his sister who lived there, his family, and she just worked, and he felt like, absolutely not. I do not want my wife doing that. My husband saw that for certain women in his family, and he was like, absolutely not. That they felt like it degrades the woman.
Yeah.
And their traumas both did not want that.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that some men was like, if a woman ain't serving you first and this, and I'm thinking, not all men want that.
Yep.
And that's a specially designed relationship where it's like, I don't have to get up and make my husband's plate. You'll probably find him making my plate. He wants to serve me because my love language is acts of service. His is words of affirmation. Therefore, when he puts that plate down,
say, "Thank
honey,
you,
let me
sweetie."
tell you. a marching band. You're the best husband in the world. Okay. Yes, exactly.
Blowing the trumpet.
Exactly. And so we have to tailor our relationship to our own individual needs.
Yeah. And so when you look at that, when you look at how we are dating nowadays, it sounds like it's just a communication issue, especially when you're talking about going from the talking stage to the, what did you say? Is not the non-committal stage. You called it something else. What word?
Dating without
exclusivity?
non-exclusive.
Yeah, non-exclusive dating. To go from that stage and then to go to
dating exclusively.
That all that is communication, because it has
Absolutely.
to transition through communication and be like, hey, we're not in a relationship, because what happens is, and it's funny what you said, that most times men do bench a woman while he's still living his single life, and he uses the term, but we ain't together, when he is exploring his options, but when she is exploring her options, like, oh, so that's what you're doing? That's the type of woman you are? The type of woman you are? You over messing with different dudes? What kind of woman are you? You know what I'm saying?
And that's why actually the first title, the major title of the book is What Are We? And then the subtitle is The 5 Stages of Relationship. But what are we is the question, and people have to ask that. And then I offer a workbook where it has all the questions you should be asking at every stage.
Uh-oh.
Yes, hundreds of questions that you should be asking.
You done armed them up with questions?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All the questions for each stage that you should be getting to know. And
that's a powerful, I like that.
Yes.
I like it when people give people tangible skills to be able to date. Because I talk to people and they'll say, women are DM me, I'm like, I don't know how to date. They've been out of practice for so long, haven't been on a date since forever. And then and then the world has shifted so much. Do I pay for the meal? Is it okay for me to ask a man out? Like all these different things that women are just confused, and they're at a stalemate emotionally and mentally, like, well, I don't know what to do.
And the thing about it is, that is what you just said is probably the biggest compliment I always get about my book. I feel more confident while I'm dating. When you know where you are. You know why? Because you learn what's expected of you. If you were hired for a job without any kind of job description, and they set you at a desk and they say, okay, we'll just give you assignments as we go along, you're like, am I meeting the standards? Am I doing what's right?
Yeah.
What's coming at me next? Or when you are able to understand what stage you are, that is a gift, to be able to either step up and meet the standard, or decide that's too much. My love don't cover that. I'm going back to stage 2. I'm going back to stage 1, wherever you want to be.
When you find, who do you counsel the most? Married couples, or do you counsel more singles, or just kind of even across the board?
I probably counsel more singles than married couples, but it was probably be more like 60-40.
So with the singles, what do you see most?
Singles, I am working on their dating trauma. I am working on their most of the singles that by the time they get to me, they don't understand what's going on with their dating life. They're just like, yeah, I'm single, but this and this. And what I mostly uncover with them, and the reason why I switched the way I'm answering that question is because they come with one problem, but that's the problem that they think is the problem is usually not the problem.
Yeah.
And so what the problem that I usually discover is some form of dating trauma in their past, whether it's secondhand or firsthand. They have fear of love. And I think that's probably the most dear to my heart sadness, is because God is love. And when we associate love with pain, and when we associate love with violence and rejection and abandonment, your entire body will tell you, your brain will say, love, danger, danger.
Yep.
So the body alarms that you start getting that will repel you. And so even when somebody good is coming your way, your body is saying, no, 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 not love, run, 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 make excuses. But we don't run. I don't know. Well, I find them, some spiritualize it. I didn't feel a peace in my spirit. And so that's the spiritual people. Okay.
What they say, love?
I don't feel a peace in my spirit. I'm just waiting on God to just drop, some lightning down and strike me, and I'm gonna run on the Damascus road and be drugged by the lion, and then I'm gonna get up and fight a bear, and I'm gonna know that's the one. And so they waiting for a sign.
And so their spirit, what you're talking about is that it's their trauma that's repelling love.
Yes.
But they're saying, I want to feel peace about it. But it's just, you ain't going to never feel peace because your trauma is responding for you.
What they're doing is spiritually bypassing. Instead of addressing the issue, they use the scripture to bypass the realities of what's really going on. And sometimes they're not doing it on purpose.
No, it's subconscious.
Yes. And when I bring it out and show them, what is really happening and why it's happening, because you can always trace it back. And when I show them why it's happening, the revelation happens, and then you can be free. But if you're on everything, 85% of what we do is on autopilot, then the autopilot of repelling, the autopilot of resisting love is just on its own. And then you have that type. And then you have the ones who are picky. And the best guys, the nicest guys will come and they will still find something wrong with them, but they don't have skills to even deal with the good guys because they haven't mastered it.
Yeah.
They literally, by the time I finish with these women, they'll say, I'll have to admit, I don't know how to receive or give love.
There it is.
And then there's this is not the last one, but the last one I'll mention. Then there's the one who is it's not that they're looking for a certain kind of guy, which is what we're talking about, and they are rejecting what I call the just Jimmies.
The just Jimmies.
Yes. See, just Jimmy been liking you and in love with you since the 8th grade. Just Jimmy don't make 6 figures, but he is a hardworking guy, and he even willing to work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Just Jimmy got good character. He'll pray with you at night. He gonna say prayers with his kids. He gonna take care of you. He gonna love you. But we're seeking the power guy. As a matter of fact, most of those people are actually emotionally unavailable.
Yep.
Because they will pick an actor. You're not going to cross paths with this guy. They will pick people who are way over out here because that keeps them safe. Even picking married men will keep them safe. They don't have to really engage and feel rejection. And so what you have to see is if you are picking people because they're unattainable, you really don't want to obtain them.
If you're picking people that are unattainable, you really don't want to obtain them.
No, you don't.
And so what happens is that while you believe that everybody else is emotionally available, actually the finger's pointing at you. That
it really is.
You're emotionally unavailable.
And what happens is when you trace everything back, it's this. Your inner child is running adult relationships.
There it is.
And that should not happen.
And when you unpack this with somebody, have you, as far as from a success standpoint, how do you measure success? Do you measure success in the people now overcoming that and then finding a healthy, thriving relationship? Or just is success them actually finally acknowledging it and doing better with how they date?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The biggest part of the success of your relationship will rely on your success with yourself, your relationship with yourself. So the more they are in touch and unearth what's in their own amygdala, and what is the traumas that are holding them back and making them feel that things are out of control, even in marriage. It is not just dating, but when they begin to uncover those things on a conscious level that can look so obvious to somebody else, but I'm telling you, they're blinded to it. And when they finally see it, usually there's tears, and then there's acknowledgement, and then there is change. Because change can happen by usually, I've heard somebody say, revelation or devastation. I'm going to stop smoking finally because I just got cancer, okay? Or revelation. this just ain't right for me.
Yeah.
You understand? So the revelation a lot of times will change people. Some will be too fearful and addicted to the emotional experience of chaos to be able to receive calm. That's a process. And if they quit early, it's just, I need to just stay in my comfort zone.
Change comes through revelation or devastation. Yeah, that just, I was talking to my
Not
nephew.
nagging.
Huh? No,
Not nagging,
no,
okay?
No, but just, and that's an inward thing. That's the thing where once someone says, listen, I don't like how my life is reflecting my choices, or, or I'm in jail, I need to do better. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when I get out, I'm gonna make some better decisions. I don't go to jail. Now it's at the very end of it. Or even when I was talking to my nephew's son, is if you're failing a grade and you get held back and you go, well, I'm in summer school, so now I'm in my devastation. Now I got to do something better. And so I always say, the old folks say a hard head makes a soft behind. I want to be a person that doesn't have to find the result of change through devastation, but by revelation, by just being alone with God and say, you know what, this ain't working out for me. Let me go ahead and do something different.
Absolutely.
Because that's where we really want to be. And so when you talk about when you look at these gender wars, as we go back to this, have you found people, especially people that sit in your chair, sit on your couch? Do you do a lot of in-person therapy, or is it virtual?
No, it's all, I used to do in person, but ever since COVID, I'm solely doing Zoom sessions.
Okay. And you still got room for other people? Because I'm telling you, people hit me up all the time, be like, do you have a good therapist? Do you know a good therapist? And these people going to hit you up, and I don't want you talking about, you ain't got no time.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I'm closed right now. And I've been closed for a while. My waiting list is a long list.
I know.
But I do have group therapy.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do a group. Yes, once a month.
Good.
And then I have a private Facebook group where the things that you see online, some of the major, or funny things that you see, I actually put my feedback on what I feel about each thing that you see posted.
Some of them viral posts that people be making and stuff?
Absolutely. I break it down, and then we actually discuss it so that even when you're online, because a lot of this stuff that you see, people start getting confused about relationships when they don't have the experience. So I want to break it down and show you what's normal and what's not. I want to show you what that is that you see that looks like, for instance, when you talk about the woman who is demanding things, is she really demanding it from the guy, or is she trying to make up for a father or a mother who did? Usually sometimes that's neglect, not all the time. Sometimes that's neglect, because neglect you'll see people who have experienced neglect in their childhood, they will take on a sense of entitlement.
Yep.
They will also compare a lot. They will compare because their inner child is always seeking justice. And justice is saying, I will not be deprived again. You're going to treat me like I should be treated. And, so they're seeking things, even though they may not be operating in it by themselves, they're seeking it from somebody else, but really it's the inner child trying to make up for what was lost. And a lot of times, by the time you get a lot of successful women, depending on their age, a lot of successful women who bring all of this to the table, they are realizing, you know what? I don't need as much money from the guy. I just need somebody, because I'm out here in the workforce. I feel the stress of it. I feel bombarded by it. I need somebody who I can come home, a support system, who is going to relieve this. And let me tell you, I have to say this part is so important, because this is a huge thing I get with married couples, especially when you have two working people.
Yeah.
A lot of this is imbalanced hormones. It really is imbalanced hormones. Yes, because this is the thing. When you'll see studies that show that the testosterone and the estrogen levels in the men and the women. So for men, testosterone actually is, is the sexual drive, but it's stimulated by when you feel like you're doing well.
Of course.
And so when you're in the workforce, you're high testosterone levels and excreting in your body and things like that. However, when you get home, if you feel like you're underperforming, estrogen is released in men. And so you have all of this estrogen when you come home, and the woman is not attracted to the estrogen levels because she's not attracted to the female in you.
Yep.
The same is, and the male is supposed to have 20 to 30% more of testosterone than his female counterpart.
Yeah.
The woman, on the other hand, she's out in the workforce. Studies have shown women come with more testosterone levels, more testosterone levels than ever before in the history of our country. So when we come home, estrogen is really what drives us and attracts us and bonds us and is a part of our sexual drive. But our estrogen is not excreted in us until we feel the support system.
Yep.
When we are in therapies and you run us to hot baths or we are at the massage, all of those things release the Eve to come. But we need an Adam to rub our feet. Don't rub mine because I'm too ticklish. But some of these ladies, they need somebody to rub their feet, okay? Or whatever they need. But they want that support system when they get home. So when I walk in the door, if I walk in and I am still Adam, and I am still doing testosterone, and you are not attracted to the testosterone in me, and I'm not attracted to the estrogen in me, then I'm going to go where I am accepted. But we have to balance each other. The men have to see that wife who's out there, she faces the same thing as you in a man's world when you have to sometimes sit at those tables. Love McPherson, know how to man up at some of those boardrooms, and I will go, okay? But when I come home, I am not that for Anthony McPherson. I want to come in and be Eve.
But did you have to find that balance?
I don't think I ever lost it because that's not what I saw at my home. My mother was a stay-at-home wife. And so, and she did a lot of talk about relationships. And so I didn't have to try to figure it out from being with a working mom who I saw, or a single mom. I call them super single moms who come with all this testosterone and they show up with their sons too and hand that testosterone. You understand?
Yeah.
And they didn't even have the luxury. And you normalize it as, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. And you don't see the other side of the support system that would bring out the Eve in her, where you're saying, oh, my mom was tough. She was this, she was this. Well, did she always want to be that?
Or she had to be that? I want to ask you this. Since you say you like talking about, I made a post the other day that I said I'm going to do these random posts on my social media about tough topics, and I want to hear you weigh in on this. Should you still follow on social media a married individual who tried to holler at you while being married?
I wouldn't.
Why not?
I would just set boundaries. And what am I looking at?
What they just say? Well, I'm just following them. Ain't no big deal. Well,
here's the thing. The boundary that I have, and it's different for other people. If you're a married person, right? Oh no, that person is married.
No, like, so if you're a single woman, I slid in your DMs. I'm like, hey, what's up? You beautiful. I'd like to take you out. And you like, okay. And you looked at my page and saw that I'm married. Should you continue following me if we so happen we're following each other at first?
I have had the situation a little bit different. And some of it, they're because I'm a relationship expert. These people don't want me. Okay, I know I'm not on the ego trip. I know they do not want me, but they want to test you to see if you're real. Okay. And so they'll slide in my DM and I'll say, I am not complimented by you thinking that I am the type of woman that would actually do this, that, and that with you. I am a happily married woman, so you don't give me compliment. You disrespect me and you disrespect my husband.
There it is.
Therefore, I'm going to invite you to my block party. And you could check my DMs and you'll see that's the message.
You're gonna invite them to the block party?
You're invited to the block party.
See, people don't realize that's what you're really showing somebody, that you don't respect them. If you know that you married and you willing to step out and try to holler at that person, if that person doesn't have the integrity to check you and be like, I don't even want to associate with you. And so I put that on. There's about over 200 something comments. People like, absolutely no. Why would you do that? That's open up the doors for this. That's this. One person said, well, I don't, they said that I wouldn't unfollow them or block them, and I said, why wouldn't you? Well, I don't think that's necessary. And I'm like, so what are you advertising to said individual? Because at the end of the day, if they're trying to holler at you and you know that they married, then why do you still want to keep checking for them?
I'm insulted.
Yeah.
And so if you're insulting me, that's not something I'd participate with on my page. So
So you actually said that to somebody, so I'm inviting you to the block party?
Oh, yeah, people know that I will invite you to the block party. This is not what we're gonna do here.
They be trying to test you to see if you who you say you are.
Let me tell you, my mother used to say they like the dog on the hay. They don't want the hay, but they don't want nobody else to have the hay either. So they not thinking about me. I know who I am. They ain't thinking about me. They just trying to test you. And let me tell you, if more men would know this and more women would know, there are people who don't want you. They just trying to test you to see your character. They will respect you more if you turn them down. But but you're out there acting like you, oh yeah, and I'm this and this and this. And there's like, oh, it's men who will go with the sanctified church woman who says she abstinent just because he wants for his ego's sake to break you.
Exactly.
Don't be excited about it. Don't see it as a compliment.
She said, "Don't be excited about it." That is so true. I had this by one of my best friends got arrested. So he said when a woman rejects him, he makes it his point to go get her to have sex with her and then kick her to the curb. I said, "Why you do that?" He said, "Because I want to get back at her. Especially if she giving me, if she playing hard to get." He like, "Oh, that's a challenge."
See?
And then I said, "So then you get her and then you don't want her no more?" He said, I already got it in. I said, how crazy is that? He said, I know. He'd be like, I know I'm effed up in the head, but hey, it's fun for me. I be like, this is so crazy. So the woman that's playing hard to get, you go put all this energy, she rejecting you for 2 years. You get her only to play with her heart and kick her to the curb. That joker said that's what he did. Like he said that's fun for him. I said, boy, you got to be a demented soul to do that to people.
But this is the thing. When that happens and you leave injuries, internal wounds to people. And that's when we have people who fear love and associate love with pain.
Yeah.
And you were just playing. And so let me tell you something. That's bigger than, that's a level of retaliation. And he is somewhere down the line, possibly was bullied at some kind of point, feels there's something in his childhood who he really wanted and didn't get, and feels so there's something way back, way before that woman rejected him. But this whole rejection thing that creates that level of aggression, that's what he needs to be sitting on somebody's couch dealing with. Well, not about what he's doing right now, what he did back then and what hurt him.
Well, he's not among the living anymore. Got arrested. So, but yeah. Tell me he need to be on somebody's couch. On the couch of Jesus over here talking to Jesus. That's my boy though. But listen, so when we start talking about marriage and we talk about relationships, you have what's the other book that you have?
The next book that I did while on sabbatical, believe it or not, okay?
You wrote a book while you're on break. Yes.
It was Notes to Self. And the subtitle of that is Talking Back to Your Inner Self. That is I think that's one of my favorite books already that I have written because it's so necessary. One of the things about talking back to self and notes to self is 2 reasons why we have to create notes to ourselves and talk back to ourselves. There's reasons for that. The notes to self is because even though our brain has the capacity to store the entire internet, 2.5 million gigabytes of information can be stored in your brain. There's infinite supply. Absolutely. It's bigger than social media, big, company. Yeah. It's huge.
Our brains.
Yes, our brains store that much. Here's the problem with our brains, though. Our brains can store that, but it doesn't. It dumps within 1 hour of what you learn, your brain will dump 50% of it. Within 24 hours, it'll dump somewhere between 60 and 70%. And within a week, it'll dump somewhere between 80 to 90% of what you learn. However, it will remember something. It will remember your traumas. So now you are remembering your traumas, but you're forgetting other information. And so what ends up happening, the 70,000 thoughts that you think every day, which are mostly negative, are trauma-based, trauma responses, negative thoughts, and you've actually forgotten about the good stuff. Even on your page, if you have 1,500 people complimenting you and 3 people, your brain will dump the 1,500 or at least 1,000 of them.
Of the positive and focus on the 3 negative people.
And focus on the 3 negative. And so what I'm saying to you, and then it will create emotions. Emotions will create moods, okay? Moods are lasting emotions. So what ends up happening is our thoughts, our emotions, we will put them in places of authority. Now, why do I say talk? So that's the notes. Remember the stuff that's important to you. Write stuff down when you have lessons that you've learned, especially in relationships. If you see that you're constantly choosing the same pattern of guy, maybe you should just kind of say, like, maybe there are some downfalls to selecting the guys who are unemployed. They take me to work and keep my car and go to see the side chick and run the red lights while they're at it. Let's remember that next time you need that type of a guy who is sitting on your couch playing video games every day. Yeah. Maybe baby man is not the man for you, but you got to write it down because you'll forget.
Call him baby man?
Baby man. Maybe we won't pick baby man next time, okay? Or the woman who is demanding everything, the privileged princess. Maybe that's not the woman for you because you are broke Joe now. Yep. Because she has taken and demanded everything of you. Yeah. So these are things you write down and remember. Now, when it comes to your emotions, though, you've got to talk back because if your inner child is talking to you constantly, but see, let me tell you, our culture, we don't talk back. We were conditioned not to talk back. In your house, you talk back. It's not everybody, but a lot of them, you get popped. Yep. Not only do you not talk back, you can be seen but not heard. Yep. Okay? You go to school, you start talking back, what do you get? Oh, you think you're smart. I thought we were supposed to be smart, but not smarter than the teacher, right? So you shut up, you listen, and what they tell you and feed you, you take notes, and then you regurgitate it on the test. When it comes to church, you might be saying, now, how is it that a whole man fit inside of a well? You might be thinking that, and you asking, that's the devil. You gonna get your hands laid on. And if you start talking back in any of these, you deemed as rebellious, and people gonna start snatching their kids away from you because you're a problem child. Yeah. Now, once you're like that, what's going to happen is you are going to begin to say, let me mute myself, or you'll see the other person who will brew. I'm never going back to church when I get from this is they're angry inside. I'm a silence, but I'm loud inside. And then there's that other one who just talks anyway and is rebellious. Okay, so you get 3 kinds. This is what changed my life. When I was bused to the white community, and I got there, one of the biggest culture shocks was how the kids talk back.
Oh, they talk back all the time. Yeah.
I mean, we're in a class, we're having a history subject, and the kids are disagreeing with this. No, I agree. In that period of time, I don't. Blah, blah, blah. Well, see, and I'm thinking, y'all not about to get a whooping yet. And I'm looking around in high school,
that's so true.
And somehow they believe that their voice meant something. Now, ours was not an act of our parents didn't like us. It was survival leading all the way back to slavery. We didn't have the privilege to talk back. We had to shut up, listen, not talk back, not even think about the options in order to save our lives.
Yeah.
And it carried down from generation. So we didn't believe we have a voice. So our voice comes out in other ways. Do you understand? It fights in other ways. Now, when I look at that and I see that we are not talking back to ourselves because we think our thoughts are figures of authority, that we have been conditioned and we're submitting to them and we're believing them, but they're lying to us about ourselves. They will lie and we don't reason. We don't use reasoning. For instance, your father say abandons you and all of a sudden you decide, I must not be enough because my dad wasn't there. Okay, that's a child who has been taught to shut up, don't think, okay? Because, and I'm not saying that that's a negative. People who are traumatized, they blame themselves. But when if you reason through that and you really process that, you say, something happened to my dad while he was growing up where he was not able to assimilate into a fatherhood position. He, for whatever reason, whether it was in that relationship or in his childhood or whatever the state was, my dad did not have the skills to be a father. He was not enough inside of him. There was not enough inside of him to help him to step up to the plate. That is not about me. That had nothing to do with who I am. But see, that's talking back. That's talking back. But that's what you should be writing notes to self. It was not my fault that my father did not father me. Note to self. So every time you attempted to think that way, you go to your note to self and say, absolutely not.
Had a conversation with my nephew's son, who's he pops up from time to time and does the switching for the episode. We had this exact conversation the other day, right, LaDarren? We had this conversation about the thoughts you think to yourself. And he was talking about how he always thinks so much negative stuff. And I said, you're a brilliant. Matter of fact, he did the switching on the episode that got a Telly Award. So he has an actual Telly Award, two Telly Awards as a 15-year-old. Got it when he was 14 and wants to do YouTube and stuff. And he says, every time I sit down to get ready to do a video, he said, I have all these ideas I want to do. But then all these brilliant ideas he has, he then thinks himself out of those ideas before he even push record. And I said, what happened? He said, I just be feeling like it ain't gonna work. I feel like this. He said he has all these negative thoughts about why he shouldn't do it. And then he doesn't do it at all. And then he gets upset that he's not as successful as he dreams of being in social media or YouTube, but he hasn't put the work in because he keeps being negative and operating in a level of impotency by not even producing the work. What would you say to LaDarren right there?
I would say, first of all, the first note is I am brilliant enough to compete against all of the people on the face of this earth who have done the same work, and I walk out with the awards. There is nothing else. There is no higher achievement, and therefore I can continue to grow. I mean, there is a higher achievement, but there is no limit to my achievement.
Yes.
There is no limit to my achievement. I would write that down. I would write down the process. I would write down the work. I would write down just notes of the process of how it came to be that I was switching the way and producing correctly. I don't know the technical terms, but I would write down some of the processes, some of my thinking patterns, what I came to. Now, once I do that, I would realize the process is very ugly on anything that's successful. Yep. You don't want to see the sausage made in the kitchen or you won't want to eat it.
Yeah.
A lot of successful people, they have negative thoughts. They're about to talk themselves out of stuff. And I would tell him, you're not alone.
Yep.
This is just how your brain works. That's your brain trying to protect you from past pain. Your brain is just saying this. You don't want to be hurt or disappointed. You don't want to fail in front of all these people. They're going to watch your stuff and you're going to not be worth it. If you're going to do it, it's not going to be successful. You don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
You got to go back to the time where you felt pain over a failed product or failed project. Forgive yourself. And then, this is the note, extract the lesson. Instead of operating in the shame of it, extract the lesson. He probably knows something that he tried that he might have failed at before. Or that somebody, whether it was somebody who hated on him, oh man.
Yeah.
And then he took it and didn't talk back to that person. Maybe couldn't talk back to that person. Just go back and do some introspection. Where did that come from? That fear of failing, but also it can be a fear of success.
That's what people don't talk about, is the fear of success. And before we wrap this up, before I launched the podcast, I literally sat down and I said, I want to do this podcast called Dear Future Wifey. And I said, but I don't have a lot of followers. On Facebook, I think I had like 5,000. I wasn't big on Instagram. I had like 1,100 followers on Instagram. And then I said, and then I started comparing myself to all the other relationship experts. And I started comparing myself to people I wasn't even trying to be a relationship expert. But I was like, well, that's the only thing in the world is that if I'm talking about relationships, everybody else is going to compare me to a relationship expert. And I said, but I don't want to be a relationship. I just want to be a student. I want to sit down and just learn from people. And then I said, oh, but that's not going to work because the people I see that's successful in it, they're showing people 5 steps to dating problem, 6 steps to doing this, 8 steps to this. I don't know the steps. So who gonna watch that? And then God said, be you. There's a whole lot of yous out there that's trying to figure this thing out. There's teachers and then there's students. Are you okay with being a student? I said, absolutely, but would people watch that? God said, yes. I said, how you know? God said, because I'm God. I said, okay, well, I'm going to go do this and I ain't going to have a high level of expectation. I'm just going to do it. Because I don't even know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to submit to the process. I'm going to take these, because what you do on YouTube, you got to get at least 100 people to subscribe so you can get the vanity URL on YouTube. So you can have youtube.com/ whatever that name is. So I said, I'm going to tell my Facebook people, hey, I'm finna start this new YouTube channel. Come follow me. So I got my 100. I said, okay. So now I got my vanity URL. And I was like, okay, now I got to do these videos. And I said, I don't like talking in front of the camera. This was right at the start of the pandemic. I said, how do people do that? People be going live and talking to nobody. Like, how do you do that? I don't like that. I produce stuff behind the scenes. How dare me sit up there? And then God said, what do you do when you're working with a client and they're flubbing words or they're saying stuff that you don't think is good for the video? You edit out, right? They said, yeah. Edit what you don't like out. I said, oh, yeah. I can't just edit out. Oh, okay. I can edit out and make myself sound brilliant. Just edit out all the flubs. And so I did that. I did that a couple of episodes. And then I said, I like talking to people. How am I going to get people to come in the middle of the pandemic? Ask. So I started asking people. They was coming here. Man, we wasn't even socially distanced or nothing. We just sitting up with a little table and we doing the podcast. The podcast hit 440,000 subscribers yesterday.
Wow.
440,000 subscribers. Every month, I'm doing over 2 million 2 million views a month, 380,000 downloads a month on Apple Podcasts and all the streaming platforms. But here it was, this guy that said, I don't think people will listen to me. And so what I was telling old nephew, son, Ladarian, was that I was like, I thought just like you. The difference between me and you is I do everything afraid. When you learn how to do stuff afraid and be like, and then I start realizing nobody don't have a heaven or hell to put me in. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You don't even know what, and even when I consult people on podcasting, I say, how do you measure success? Because how you measure success is important. If you measure success by saying, I want 100,000 subscribers, then you're never going to feel successful until you hit 100,000. But then what happens is you're going to always move the goalpost again, and then you're going to say, well, the next milestone is 1 million. So I'm not going to feel successful until I get 1 million. I've dialed everything back and said, I feel successful every time I push record and release that episode.
That's really good. Let me tell you something. And I believe that when you peak early, then you become your own competition.
Woo.
And that's the scariest part.
Yep.
Is because you say, was that real or was that a fluke? You understand? Can I do it again?
Yep.
And again
Yeah.
When are the people going to get tired? So those are the voices you hear. So it's kind of like when you're 15 and you get a telly,
Yeah.
then you said, I could never get another one.
Yeah.
Would this get me at that? So you're constantly thinking you're trying to outdo yourself.
Yep.
So you lose every time you don't outdo you.
Woo.
And so what I'm saying is stop competing with you. Could just do your purpose.
That's
just
it.
do your ideas. Start trusting yourself and just produce it. Like what the baseball thing. If you have it, they will come. You understand?
Yeah.
And you just
Build it and they shall come.
Yeah, just build the relationship with your audience, because at this point, they're coming for you now. Their relationship is with you.
Yeah.
They have to trust you.
Yeah.
And your sincerity in this thing, and that you're for their good. And when you can ask questions that are meaningful to them, you've actually are doing them a service, so they see the value in them. So all that your nephew, son.
There you go, Dan, right there.
All you have to do is to make sure that you are always keeping your listeners in mind and say, what gift can I give to them this time? What information can I give to make their life better? Always think of a problem you can solve, and people will come and find your answer.
Every single time. Yeah, I can talk to you all day. Listen, God, you got so many books. So you have 5 Stages of Dating. That book is out, right?
Both of the books are out.
Both of the books, 5 Stages of Dating, but Notes to Self isn't out, right?
Oh, that is out.
That's out too.
I just introduced it at Woman.
So it's fresh off the press.
Yes, absolutely.
How do people pick up these books?
They can go to my website, which is www.lovemcpherson.com. And even if you don't put the www in front of it, it's just go to lovemcpherson.com. You'll get the book.
How they connect with you on social media?
Love McPherson everywhere.
And can people still sign up for your group coaching?
Absolutely. And please do. You'll enjoy that group coaching. We're a family, you all. And we answer questions right there in the group. People give dating scenarios. They talk about different things. We go deep. We don't just handle it surface. We're going to always take it to the deeper level and the root of the issue. And so expect that it's not just going to be about dating. It's going to be the root of why the fears are there, why the rejection. We're going to have to solve it. And if you see this happening, it's relating to this, let's heal. Let's do the work.
How long have you been doing this? Before I let you go, how long have you been doing this work?
Ooh, I've been doing it longer than I've been paid to do it. I'll say that.
You're doing it for free at first.
Exactly. I've worked as a clinical professional for 26 years, but in this particular realm, I have worked since 2010.
2010. That's good. And to give context of why I call LaDarren my nephew son is because he's my nephew. I adopted him several years ago, but he don't like for me to call him my son because he's like, that's weird. My sister is your mama. He said, my mom is your sister. So that just sounds weird. If you call me your son, I said, okay, I can see that.
Like what happened with your sister?
What happened? I'm your son and your sister is this, whatever. So I just call him my nephew's son. So
I love that.
And so that's what it is. So man, listen, thank you so much for pouring into our listeners.
Let me just say this.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate you because there are clients, believe it or not, and I would never ever reveal any information. There are clients that I have to actually coach them back from a healing, from an injury, from relationship experts.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not talking about anybody you've had on. Or,
I ain't talking about anybody you had on. You're making it worse.
I don't want y'all to start getting
You're making it worse when you start saying stuff.
But people that are online, and so when people are betrayed by people they put their trust in, it's even more difficult.
Yeah,
and so some of it is just it's just bait.
Yeah,
bait for women.
Yeah,
and what you're doing is bait. And so I appreciate you because I believe you. I believe you're real. and I believe you're a dear wife. And this is when I was sold, because I said he will lose his entire brand if he actually gets married, though, because he doesn't have to write any more letters to dear wifey. So what happens after that? But you have a backup plan already in place. You don't stop writing letters.
Yep.
You write them to wifey.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And so the girls who will be thirsty, like, could I be the wifey you're writing letters to?
Mm-hmm.
I've watched you, and you really are looking.
Very much so. I did an episode that was in January called Healing from Heartbreak. I actually thought that, this woman was going to be my wife. I was going to propose to her March the 18th. And we already discussed, I was going to propose, but we already discussed our wedding date, which would be September the 23rd. So you see, like, even next week would be, when this episode drops, that upcoming Saturday would be the day that we were getting married. I was in the talks with a major network who was wanting to sign my podcast on, and they said, so what happens when you find the one? And I said, I'm gonna knight another bachelor to take over the podcast. They said, hold on, what? You tell me you're willing to just let this go? I said, it was for a season. I'll just knight it, I'll produce it. They was like, no. If we're behind you and we're about to start getting behind you and pushing this machine, you can't just let it go. Mm-mm. I said, well, I'm not married to this. It doesn't matter. And they said, see, that's what we like about you. But the answer is no. What you need to do is, because they said, then what? I said, well, I'll get my wife and then we'll start a podcast together. And they said, why don't you just bring her on to this one? And they said, we'll see the whole evolution of when you were single all the way until you got married, and now y'all are doing this together. I said, oh, I never thought about that. And it was like, yeah, just do that. And they made me rethink the strategy of just letting it go and then starting something else. They said, no, Dear Future Wifey is you. You're the brand. You're building that thing.
Absolutely.
And then I was just like, okay. But that was a conversation I had back in March. You know what I'm saying? Because I've learned to pivot in life. I've never adopted the ideology that if God did it one time, he can't do it again. That whatever this season is in my life is me stewarding my Adam season. I always call it my naming the animal season until God brings me my Eve. And so I love that they because like I said, I'm a student. This is my first time doing this. I never even thought that it could ever be this big. And so when wise counsel was telling me, no, just keep on doing it, then I said, okay, I understand. But God always wanted me to maintain the heart posture that I'll let it go.
You know what the most impactful thing that you just said to me? You said, I'm not married to it. Because, see, if you were married to the podcast, you wouldn't be looking for a wife.
Oh, that's deep. Oh, that's deep.
Oh, no, because you're not going to break up with the podcast for some woman. You will not trade in a podcast for a woman. Therefore, you have already said, oh, this is a temporary assignment with you because a woman is more important to me than this podcast.
100%.
That's integrity in your work, which is why God can trust you to grow it.
That's deep. That's deep. Your daughter was nodding her head. Well, right there, priest. You finna get me emotional. I'm finna cry. I'm not finna cry on this doggone podcast right here. Hey, y'all give it up for Love McPherson.
That was. Let me tell you something.
Oh, Jesus.
That was your Abraham moment.
Oh, Jesus.
Will you give up your only begotten son?
Oh, God.
Will you give up the promised son? And you said, you know what? We're going to go on up here and we're going to crucify this podcast.
Ooh, Jesus.
And I'm going to come back.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you understand?
That's
the level of sacrifice.
You're trying to make me cry. Leave me alone.
That's the level of sacrifice you have to have in order to get into this thing. It's so much bigger than what people are reducing relationships and marriage to. You have to have that type of love for a person that's not even in your life yet. That type of love for somebody to say, you talk about come home, I will give up this thing for you. But you have to have that mindset before you ever walk through the door to take her on the date. Have your principles. Understand the end from the beginning. Because when I finish, and this is how I did this with my life, and I know I see it in you, I decided when I turn 70, I want to be able to sit at a Thanksgiving meal, and I want my husband to be happy about his life. I want to be happy about my life. But most of all, I want my children to come, not because they were coerced, not because they were guilt tripped, not because they needed a meal. I want them to come, bring the grandchildren, and when they sit at the table, we have a relationship. That does not start when I'm 70. It started with us leaving money on the table for family day. It started with me dating my husband every single week since the day we got married. It started with us making choices to stay home and having less money and putting them in certain things and talking and apologizing when we did wrong. All of that contributed. And when I walk into Woman Evolve with both my daughters by my side, I know that the sacrifices I've made for a relationship with them, it all worked out. But what you're doing right now, your mindset is, I'm willing to give this all up because this is real to me. This is not a gimmick. God will honor that.
You close it out because I ain't got no say so at this point. When you want to be finished, love? Because you ain't gonna just keep over here therapeuticizing me.
I would like everybody to see this. In closing, a lot of times when we go to 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, we go there especially as Christians to learn about love. And we stick kind of in that 4th through the 8th verse, that love suffereth long and is kind. Love, it tells you all about the love and it's all beautiful. And we stop at love never fails. We're right there. But you know what? That stops at the 8A. We need to keep going down to the 11th verse, because it says, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man or mature, I put away childish things. We must put away our inner child in order to run adult relationships. Our inner child cannot run you constantly demanding of others what you never got as a child. You cannot pick a lollipop over a kiwi. A lollipop is beautiful. It will look beautiful on Instagram. If you give a child the decision for a lollipop or a kiwi, they're going to pick the lollipop every time, even though inside the kiwi, it ain't nice and tall and beautiful, but it's kind of a little hairy, but inside it reduces stroke. It reduces diabetes. There are antioxidants. It boosts your immune system, but you got to open it up and get the goodness out the center of it. And it will give you life and health and longevity. The lollipop is tall, beautiful, and looks good on Instagram and even tastes good in your mouth. However, it's not good for you. And eating that and that diet all the time is toxic and will kill you soon. And what I would like people to do is to not allow their inner child to demand the things that will not take you to your long-term goals, not your instant gratifications, your long-term goals. Develop a mature mindset so that you can have a mature relationship with yourself and a mature relationship with your future forever.
Not your Instagramifications. Your Instagramifications. Love, thank you. Thank you for pouring into me. Thank you for seeing the God in me. Thank you for seeing the purpose in me. Thank you for seeing my heart. I'm going to cry when I get in the car.
I love that. You make sure you cry in front of that future wifey, okay? Because she's going to love that.
Oh, I cry all the time. I don't care. I said I ain't going to be one of them men that die from stroke at an early age because they've been holding up all that pressure. I let my emotions out. I cry. Out. I teach my sons cry. When something hurts, let that mess out. We don't have this old toxic masculinity in my household. Be like, cry. I've held my sons when they've cried, and I've cried with them. So, and
you know what else? I got to say something about the fatherhood. Just one more thing. Okay. When your son said, your son nephew said, that sounds weird. Literally, you could have taken that as a rejection.
Yeah.
You really could. It's like, I see you as son and you see me as still
The uncle.
uncle involved. And so it could have went into you as, you're not matching my love.
Yeah.
It was not that.
Yeah.
That he was actually, that was an act of safety for you. He was not just himself, but he's thinking about you. It's like, if your sister birthed me and you are the brother, do we need to explain something? So maybe what you would have taken as an act of rejection was him also protecting you, your image, and his. And so for you to see, that was not about rejection. He still loves you.
I thought about it for a second, though. I kept saying, I ain't playing the role of no uncle. You saw how I played the role as uncle. I wasn't like this in your life. You know, I've seen you a couple of times, a few times a year. I'm your dad right now. I'm playing role of dad. You get an inheritance. I'm treating you no less than I'm treating my biological daughter. But then the minute I thought that, God said, but you know who you are.
But that's the mindset of a husband too. That you master those skills. That's what I'm trying to say. You qualify, because when that wife says, "This will present a trauma for me in this manner," and you don't make it about yourself. You make it about that person. First, take the hypocritical oath. First, do no harm. Don't keep daggering into their traumas. Accept it until they grow past it.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've been asking God to continue to curate inside my heart, to live a sacrificial life like that. You know, sometimes I'm challenging, sometimes like, hold on now, let me tell you this. I got my own trauma too, because sometimes that trauma may ignite my own trauma. And then I look at it as rejection. I look at this. And so my daughter said it best one day. She said, Dad, you're the most selfless person I know. And that's the thing that I always wanted to be. But at times I felt like I was being a pushover with her mom. Me and her mom was never married, high school sweetheart or whatnot. But then she would watch how her mom would handle me a lot. And she was like, you let my mom get away with everything. She treats you any kind of way. I said, well, one thing that I'm doing is I'm honoring your mom through you. I said, my job is to show you how a man honors a woman, regardless of how I may feel about it. And she's like, well, sometimes I feel like you let my mom walk over you or whatever. And I said, she can never walk over me. I said, see, the thing about it, one thing that I read in the Bible, one of the most powerful humans that walked the face of this earth, and a human that became flesh from the spirit, was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, you can't kill Jesus Christ. He had to surrender. He had to submit himself. So you can look at him and be like, man, Jesus was a punk. He let these people kill him. Jesus said, you thought that they did that? Or you thought that they just overpowered me or something? No, I gave myself unto them. And so I always said, God, I want the heart posture of you. I want where people think that they done took advantage of me. They really thought that they done did something to me. They didn't do nothing to me. And when God taught me vengeance is mine, said the Lord, then I started learning not to fight my own battles. And I say, God, it's on my wall in my office right there. It said, let your character outlive their lie. It was something that God told me back in 2018, where I was dealing with this situation, and God said, let your character outlive their lie. And I said, well, God, you take too long. It takes too long for your character to outlive a lie. God said, but I'm God. You know, when you start thinking with these same old human thoughts, yeah, you may think it's long, but my ways are not your ways and my thoughts are not your thoughts. And God has created and curated this beautiful platform where he is exemplifying himself to the world and to the masses. And so what I always try to show my kids is the same thing of saying that, hey, listen, treat people with honor. Talk to your teachers. I said, your teachers are humans. I said, if you learn how to honor your teachers, I guarantee you, they won't fail you. Like they won't. They'll be like, come here, LaDarren. You know what? You one of my favorite students. You always ask me how I'm doing. You always give me respect or whatever. I know you're struggling this right now. What can I do to help you better? Matter of fact, I don't even have tutoring on Tuesdays, but why don't you come see me on Tuesday? I mean, it's like there are people, I tell my kids right now, we are in the business of customer service. So when you're talking to people and teachers or whatnot, they're humans. They get mad at their job because they like, y'all kids be very stressful with them dealing with you. honor their jobs and go in there and literally say, thank you for coming to work today. Thank you for teaching me, because you could have had a substitute that comes in there and they just babysitting and go, and now you're falling behind, but you can't use that as an excuse when you got a 3.1, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, just honor your teachers. And I said, if you can learn that when you get a job, you're gonna be able to honor your boss. You're gonna get raises when other people can't get raises. You're gonna get promotions when other people can't get promotions, because you learn how to talk to people.
And when you get married,
You'll be
you
able to
already
honor
have
that spouse.
mastered the skills, a major skill that you will need. You will have to learn to honor each other.
Period.
And
love, we finna end this podcast. Period. Because you be preaching over here. You are blessing my whole entire soul. Listen, go buy the book, 5 Stages of Dating, Note to Self. Join her coaching program. This is the Love McPherson. She will bless your life. Thank you so much for pouring into us. Thank you for pouring into me. Y'all give it up for my homie.
Thank
Love
you
McPherson.
for having me.
Don't say nothing. Thank you to my homie, Love McPherson. I've enjoyed you so much. Thank you.
I have enjoyed you. I think we could just sit and talk. Our podcast can only be so long, but we'll just have to sit and talk, okay?
Just sit and talk. Y'all give it up. Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm LaTerris R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today. Man, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Man, tough topics, man. We deep diving into this thing. I thank God so much for bringing Love McPherson on the podcast. I've been dying to talk to her. She and I have been trying to make this happen for, I think, almost close to a year now. It's been an amazing time. So listen, here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, I just bought a new home. John 14:3 states, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. I'm preparing for you. This home is for you. I thought of you every step of the way, and though I tried my best to curate a space I believe you will love, please feel free to make it your own. Can I be honest? Moments like these are bittersweet. I feel we are supposed to be doing this together. However, I'm still single. I try my best to rest in this season while maximizing it at the same time, but my mind often daydreams about what life will be like with you by my side. You know, I'll end this letter now. Just want you to know I'm preparing for you like John 14:3. I love you. Your future hubby. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.